What's happening, guys? Levi from AMX, and welcome back to another episode of Project 125, where we take a KTM 125 and rebuild it from the ground up. Today, we're talking everything front end, from front wheel to forks to triple tree. First step is we are going to reseal and rebuild our front forks. All right, the first thing I like to do when I'm rebuilding a shock is to actually count the clicks on my rebound and my compression. You always want to, whenever you're counting your clicks, wind down, and then when you go to reset your position, you screw it all the way in and then count the clicks out that you counted previous. So that's what we're going to do first up. I like to write it down because I have got a memory like a sieve. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 clicks on my rebound. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on my compression. So put that away for later because we don't need it no more. Now unwind all of it. So here we have the shock basically completely dismantled, but what we're going to do now is replace all these bushes and seals. Now these are the bushes and the spacer, oil seal, dust seal, retaining ring. Now what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we take all this off, we put it all back in the same order that it came off of. Otherwise, if we forget a step, we have to backtrack and do it all over again. So it's always good if you got a smartphone, just take a photo of that so you can have a reference point to get back to. Now at this point in time, what I like to do is actually inspect the chrome because it is on this surface that the oil seal actually acts on. So we want to make sure that there are no blemishes in regards to pitting of rust, or scratches or gouges or anything like that. If there is, what you can actually do, you can get a very fine grit sandpaper and work up and down the shaft and get those impurities out. All right, so now that we're back to the reassembly, what I'm doing here is I've got a little trick of the trade. Put some Glad wrap over the top of the cylinder, get a lubricant of some kind, even use oil if you want, and this will actually prevent the seal, the inner lip of the seal, from folding on itself when you go to slide the new seal on. Just like that. Seal, oh, almost forgot a step. Beautiful. So we've got our shock assembly basically put back together. Now we've reached the step of putting reseating the inner seal. So what we've actually got is a very special tool, which is a fork seal installer. It's a 4-piece item that splits into 2 like that. So you can put it on the outside of the fork, spin the collar, and now it's 1 piece. So from here, we then stand up our shock, push our seal down, and that is now back in place. So what we can do now is put that retaining clip in, put the dust seal down, and that is literally our seal aspect of the shock reseal done. That is in. Okay. That's it. So that is our shock tube reassembled. Make sure you got plenty of rags around the place, because even though we've drained all the oil out, there will always be oil coming out of these shocks. What you realistically should be doing is, when we completely strip our shock, you actually set it upside down for a full 24 hours for the oil to leak out of the shock, so you have no spillage when it actually comes to resealing and reassembling. But we haven't got 24 hours. So we've reached the point of the build where we can actually start the reassembly of our triple tree, or headstock some people call it. Now, all these parts are good for reuse. We are going to, however, replace the headstock bearings and seals. But before we go ahead and do that, these things are looking a little old, so we're going to give them a bit of a birthday. All right, so we're getting ready to install our triple tree or headstock. Now I've already beaten in the headstock races for our tapered roller bearings. I've pre-greased our bearings and I've made sure that all the seals go back in the order they're supposed to go in. Now if you're doing this at home, it's always helpful to have a mate there to hold things for you whilst you're persuading things in place. But unfortunately today I'm by myself, so I'm gonna see how I can do this, do it the best way I can. Love taps. Nice. Seal. O-ring for the shaft so no corrosion goes down inside that shaft there. Sealing cap. And our, just like that. Now just leave all of this finger tight for now. So we've got our front forks back in, completely resealed and reassembled and back on the frame. Now I'm super excited to see this thing come together, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna throw this engine in and put this rear sway arm back on. But there are a couple of key things that you might wanna look out for before throwing a freshly rebuilt engine back into a frame. Firstly, what I like to do is actually fill up the gearbox with oil and then let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. Just so you know that the gaskets that have been replaced are actually sealing and holding the oil. What this prevents is having to pull the engine back out after finding out that she has a couple of oil leaks. So there's a couple of things like that that you want to be concerned about when putting your engine back into your frame. So I've put some oil in my engine and I haven't got any leaks, but that doesn't mean it's ready to go straight back in. Now this frame has been powder coated, so the distance between the clamps that the engine bolts to has reduced now and it's going to be a tight fit. So what I like to do is get a little bit of grease and quickly put some on the ears of the clamps, just so it's nice and easy for installation. That. So now we've got our engine in, we're about to put our sway arm in, but what a lot of people do is they will tighten up their engine where this actually anchors off the back of the engine, and that will make the job a lot harder if it's not lined up properly. So leave those engine mounts loose before you try and locate your rear swing arm pivot point. Look at that. So we've got our suspension back on, we've rebuilt and resealed our forks, we've also got our sway arm on and our monoshock. Now the next step is to get this thing to a rolling chassis, but that is for another episode. Again guys, I'm Levi from AMX. If you like what you've seen here today, don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment below. If you're watching this on socials, don't forget to follow along so you can see what we're getting up to next. You guys get out there and you ride safe.